what if you had to look back to your grandchildren and they said, well, during all this discussion about the environment and everything, what did you do? If you ran the largest company in the world, what did you do to help? Well, it'd be great if you said, you know what? We did the kind of things that made a difference. In my office at home is the most wonderful picture that Doug and Walmart gave me that shows the trucks. It's a painting of the trucks lined up with all of the products and the emergency supplies that were needed at Katrina. It's one of my favorite pictures about Walmart because it shows the strength of the company. It shows what Walmart can be when it's at its best. It was about having a better story to tell. It was about being a better company. And so we decided to give a speech. And we decided to use that speech to frame where we could go as a company and what we could be as a company. And it was an incredible experience. So, I kind of like to talk. Any of those who remember me know that. But in this case, we actually had to put some hard information in there. What were we going to do about greenhouse gases? What were we going to do about waste? What were we going to do about the products that we were selling? And so we started this dialogue, and we had people who didn't know anything about the environment saying, well, I don't think we should ever guarantee 15% reduction in greenhouse gases. I think it should be 7.8. And then the next person say, well, I'm not going to even sign on if we don't do at least 20. So we could never reach consensus because it was so controversial. So finally, rather than not give the speech, I said, why don't we just put 3 goals out that are so aspirational it will cause us to make the right decision time after time. And that's how we came up with the goals that we have. So 10 years ago, in this very room, we started our environmental journey. But I do think that what you're faced with is an opportunity that is also slightly different. It's going to take a different level of sophistication. It's going to take a different level of commitment on your part to wade through challenges and issues to make sure that you keep your eye on what it is that is important to Walmart, what it is that's important to the customer, and what it is then that is important to the environment.
Good morning. Welcome to our fall 2015 Sustainability Milestone meeting. As Lee just said in the video, it's been 10 years since he gave that iconic speech where he set out 3 sustainability goals for Walmart. First, to be powered by 100% renewable energy. Second, to eliminate waste in our operations. And third, to create more sustainable products for our customers. Well, today we're going to take stock of our progress. And as we always do in milestone meetings, we'll focus more on the commitments that are coming due this year. But because it's a special anniversary, we're also going to look back over the last 10 years. We're going to do a little reminiscing. We're going to do a little celebrating. We'll take some stock of what we've learned along the way. Lee's speech really, in many ways, was ahead of its time. He pushed us to innovate. We had to innovate to even come close to achieving the goals that the company set out. And over time, our commitment to sustainability has broadened and deepened. So what began as a focus maybe more on our own operations evolved into a recognition that we need to look at the supply chain. And that's really evolved into a recognition that to achieve those kind of goals, we have to innovate the systems that we rely on as a retailer, those systems that help us bring the food, the apparel, the general merchandise to our customers all around the world. That's progress. So today we're going to acknowledge the associates, the suppliers, the NGO partners who've all worked with us to achieve so much in the last 10 years. And really a big thank you to everyone in this room and all of the other folks who've been working away on these important initiatives. I want to recognize a few of our NGO partners who are here with us today. So we've got folks from Environmental Defense Fund, Fred Kropp and his team. We've got folks from World Wildlife Fund, so Carter Roberts and his team. Conservation International, Peter Seligman and your team. Jib Ellison, Blue Sky and team, just to name a few. We also have folks from Feeding America, Goodwill, Partnership for a Healthier America, International Justice Mission, and I'm sure I've left out a few. But without you guys, we wouldn't be where we are today. And without all the tremendous associates here and the suppliers, thank you so much for the collaboration. Today, you're also going to get a chance to meet Laura Phillips. She is our new SVP for Sustainability. We're absolutely delighted to have her enroll, so let's save the applause for when we bring her up in a few minutes. And now I'd like to turn it over to a person who was here at the beginning 10 years ago, who was part of the team that worked with Lee to set those aspirations. He's been a fantastic leader in this company, committed champion of sustainability in all of the leadership roles that he's held, and today he runs it all. Without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Doug McMillon, our CEO.
Good morning. Kathleen, thank you. Thank you for your leadership. You and your team continue to take us forward, and we really do appreciate that. Can you believe it's been 10 years? How many of you were in the room that day when Lee delivered leadership in the 21st century? Look around the room and see all the hands that were up. Can you believe it's been 10 years, Don? It's gone by so fast, and we have made a lot of progress. But as we'll talk about today, we still have a lot to do. When I look back and think about what led to the speech, it really brings a lot of great memories back to mind, and I feel warm and excited about what happened during that period of time. There was a lot of work that went into that moment. We actually started the work related to sustainability well before that speech was delivered, and really went through a perspective change as a group of leaders that I believe was really powerful. I was still in my 30s back then, and was, excited and engaged, and feel like that I learned a lot during that period of time. Lee's leadership took a lot of courage. And having been around and had conversations with him about that moment leading up to the speech, I can tell you that he understood how much risk he was taking, Jib, and how far he was stepping out, and was talking to all of us about, do you really think that we can do this? And I respect how much courage that took, and I understand that that courage is still needed. He had support. He had support from Rob, who's here with us today, and it's great to have him here. He had support from a few other people, but it did take a lot of courage. The other thing that comes to mind is how we went about it. Jib, we did it differently than we were doing other things in the company. We like other companies, operate with an organizational structure, and people have positions, and we tend to be kind of routine in the way that we lead the company and make things happen. But in this case, we didn't do it that way. We created sustainable value networks, and we worked across the company in different ways. And leaders emerged from all over the place. Laura Phillips was one of them. Matt Kistler was one of them. Don was one of them. People just stood up from merchandising, from our energy team, and from other places in the company, and they grabbed the idea, they innovated, they led with passion, and they drove change across the company. And it was very exciting to see that happen. We learned new ways about working together cross-functionally, and we really did drive more innovation during that time. Greg, people would come into meetings with items and talk about what they had done to make those items better and how it moved us forward as it relates to sustainability. And they were fun stories, and those items sold. We actually drove sales with the things we did with light bulbs, and we took costs out with the things we did with detergent. And we had great stories that Andy Barron and others told about Kid Connection toys. And those item stories caused us to be, merchants. And that's who we are at the core. That's what we do. So innovation was a very important part of it, and needs to be in the future. We're still changing the company. I've got a framework slide I want to put up here for just a second that at the top acknowledges that we have a purpose. We have a common purpose. We save people money so that they live better. We've got a strong set of values and culture that will take us into the future. And we've got strategies around different stakeholder groups. We've spent a lot of time the last couple of years focused on customers and how we will bring together digital and physical to create a seamless experience for customers and win with customers in the future. We've invested a lot in associate opportunity, and more to come as it relates to that. And as it relates to communities, making a difference in the world, sustainability, making a difference for society, we have a plan there as well. And these three areas, customers, associates, and communities, are actually overlapping. They're drawn on the picture like they're separate, but they're very much interrelated. There's an opportunity to drive sales, lower expenses, and do good things for the world and for communities around the world, and we know that. We've convinced ourselves of that with the reality that's been generated over the last decade. So if you double-click on the one that says communities, you'll get the next slide, which shows the plan that we have around opportunity, sustainability, and strengthening local communities. We have a plan and work is underway. In the beginning, it was a little bit theoretical. We had big goals. We were going after those, but we didn't know exactly what it looked like. Over the years, we've operationalized those things and made them into reality together with a lot of partners. We've had help from universities, we've had help from NGOs, we've had a lot of help from suppliers. You know, we're not scientists, we're not chemists, we don't always know what to do with packaging, but there are people who do. And we opened up as a company and we let people help us in different ways, frequently through the sustainable value networks, but not always. And because they helped change and shape the company, we have become a better company. A couple of the people that helped us do that are here today, and I want to ask them to come up. Fred Krupp, would you come up from Environmental Defense? And Peter Seligman, would you come up? Peter's with Conservation International. Would you please welcome them this morning? Thank you. Thank you, Peter. I want to start with you because you were there from the very, very, very beginning. Tell us your version of the truth on how this whole thing started.
It starts with Rob Walton, and it starts on a boat off the coast of Costa Rica, watching a trawler go by filled with shark fin, and a conversation about, so how do you actually stop shark finning, and how do you get the market involved? And from there, shifted quickly to a visit with the president of Costa Rica, and the president of Costa Rica looking at me and seeing environmentalists across my forehead, and looking at Rob and thinking jobs and market, and that was the real beginning, and then it evolved into Rob's son Ben encouraging both of us to actually do something, and we ended up with Lee Scott, and Lee was extraordinarily receptive, and my memory of this, which might not be accurate, but it is my memory, is having a brief conversation with Lee about the cost of a pound of salmon in Walmart stores, and saying that the color pink on this salmon is a dye, and the coast of Chile is an ecological wasteland, and Lee Scott responding, I had my first granddaughter last week, we don't want to do that. And from there it was just a full-on enthusiastic engagement and a remarkable evolution in this company. Mm.
And there were a lot of people when we started this conversation that didn't think highly of Walmart and didn't actually want to engage.
That's right. And when we started this journey together, for me, the most obvious thing when I came from a non-governmental organization to Walmart, I was amazed at the scale of this enterprise. And I immediately knew that this was way too big for any single organization to guide or be involved with. And so we began to talk about how do we engage other organizations. And what is wonderful having Fred here is that in the very beginning, when the call went out to other organizations to come to Bentonville to work with Walmart, most said no. Or they said, we'll come, but nobody can know we're coming.
Right. We had one, sorry to interrupt, we had one environmental leader that agreed to meet with us, but it was in the inn at the mill in the basement with the shades drawn, and we had, true story, we had to come in one entrance, he came in another, and left by those same entrances because he didn't want to be seen talking to us.
And so that first gathering with the organizations that were really enthusiastic about engaging with this remarkable company, those first engagements really were ice-breaking efforts that just showed everybody that we're actually all people. We all have kids. We all have the same aspirations, and we better get our acts together and work together. And that was really the beginning.
So Fred's one of those people that engaged early and took that risk. What was that like?
Well, Doug, I remember the conversations that Peter's talking about before I was involved that were just so pivotal. I had come to Bentonville 10 years earlier after EDF had worked with McDonald's in hope that the company would be ready to do something like this. But at the time, for whatever reasons, I either didn't talk to the right people or the company wasn't ready. So when I heard the news that I and others were being invited to Bentonville, it didn't matter what was on my schedule, I was clearing it and coming. And the first meeting was great. It was very encouraging, but the follow-up was even more spectacular. EDF proposed a 2-day trip with Lee Scott on climate change, first to the top of Mount Washington to look at weather reports that had been kept since the 1920s. We talked well into the evening about what Walmart could do in terms of changing its sales of light bulbs from incandescent to compact fluorescence, making more shelf space available. Then we went to Kansas, where Lee had been born and raised, and looked at other solutions that the company is now working on involving corn growing and fertilizer. I mean, that trip made me sure that the company really had the intent to do the right thing. So we were happy to help, happy to move a team into Bentonville within a couple years. And I think when people look back on what good has happened to the environment over the last 10 years, the leadership of the company, of Lee Scott, Mike Duke, and yourself, Doug, and of those who are all those part of the Walmart family, will deserve one big chapter in that book. It's one of the best things that's happened to those who care about sustainability. And
To do, or what would you hope that we would do in the future to make even more good happen?
Well, I would think that you should deliver.
last decade.
And we're still writing it. As you look forward, both of you, what would you challenge us
On the targets that you've set. I think that they're ambitious targets. I think that we have to turn these around from not. Right now, everything we do in sustainability is focused on doing less damage. We should be thinking about it in a positive way. And I think that that's what's inspiring. And I think that one of the things that you really need to do is figure out how do you communicate to your audience, to your public, to your customers, so that they understand that what you are doing and what they can do is in all of our enlightened self-interest. And so it's got to be turned into that.
Yeah.
And in terms of concrete, and we'll talk about this later, I think that you need to lead the way in not just establishing what you're going to do for yourself, but how do you actually create a framework of policies that encourage all others to participate in the same way.
Fred?
Well, I agree with that. Not surprisingly, the goals, which I understand you're in the process of setting for the next 10 years, it's so important that they be ambitious yet achievable, publicly announced so there's accountability and trust, and science-based, set so that they really move the needle and are worthy of a company of your size and scale. And on policies, I agree there too. And I'm just so happy to see Walmart engaging in policy on the recent truck rules. Walmart, with its fleet that has become, which is so big and has become so much more fuel efficient, to have that in the official docket as the government considers truck rules of the future, the weight of that is so much more important than if EDF comments. Not to diminish ourselves, but you're a company in the real world which shares a philosophy that I know EDF shares of finding the ways that work. And so you keep demonstrating that these big goals are achievable through individual actions and by becoming part of setting practical policies that work for business and everyone on the planet. That's what I would challenge you to continue to do.
Doug, I know we got to wrap. I just want the one thing that I think that everybody here and everybody in this company should appreciate and understand is that what you have done is democratize the concept of sustainability. You've made it affordable and understandable for every single person in this country and in the world, all of your customers, all your suppliers, and that is massively important, and congratulations. It's extraordinary achievement.
Well, you guys have played a big role on it, in it. We're not done yet. Thank you both. You guys have played a big role in what we've done.
Good morning. My name's Don Frieson, and I support our Sam's Club operations team. I want to talk to you a little bit about what we do in operations as it relates to sustainability. You know, it's interesting when you look at the total supply chain, operations really supports about 10% of the total footprint out there. And we know that 10% compared to the 90% that's in the rest of the supply chain may seem like a small bit, but it's really, really important for us to make sure that we walk the walk and talk the talk. And that becomes important for us. So all across operations, you got to recognize that we hate waste. That's an operator's mentality. At Sam's Club, we often talk about 3 E's in our business. We talk about exciting for our members. We talk about the ability of our associates to be engaging. But the cornerstone of who we are is about being efficient. We hate inefficiency. It's a big deal for us. So over the last 10 years since the challenge to the organization, we've had to think about how do we take waste and really think about it in a different way. How do we become more productive? And we've been able to do that in a big way. We've taken waste from being a cost center to actually being a profitable income generator. Now, how have we done this? So a lot of recycle programs out there across our entire organization, to include our international countries. Our operators have been very involved in cardboard and plastic recycling. As a matter of fact, it's a no-brainer now. That's just what we do. But when you think about things that are a little more complicated, like food diversion programs, we've adopted those. At Sam's Club, we've donated over 62 million meals, taking waste to being something that people can feel good about. But globally, our company has donated over 1 billion meals. Is that not a lot? In 2012, we started a diversion program around organics. And our drivers, if you think about what they do every day, we've donated over 250,000, Chris, truckloads of organic material, which is a really, really big deal. As a matter of fact, our U.S. stores, Greg, have been able to, since 2012, eliminate over 2,000 compactors in the stores. So we've turned capital, right, into efficiency. And that's a really big deal for us. So now, taking it a step further, we have to work both upstream and downstream in the supply chain. Upstream, working with our suppliers on making sure that we're looking at packaging the way we should and helping them convert our waste into energy. One example is in Mexico, over 600 tons of vegetable oil being sent to suppliers that now uses that vegetable oil and creating our great value Terra Bar laundry soap. Now, I've never tried it, but I'm sure it's great. If you think about downstream, it's really about helping our customers be more sustainable in their lives. At Sam's Club, we have a program where they can bring in their used electronics and trade them in. for a value against new electronics. It's keeping those old electronics out of the landfills. Across the countries, whether it's Chile, Brazil, South Africa, they're providing receptacles for their customers and their members to come in and place things like cardboard and plastics and electronics. So we're helping our customers be more sustainable as well. Now, when you think about how many of you, when you leave your offices, you turn off your lights, or you leave a meeting room, you turn off the lights? Okay, that's not every hand. Because if you think about it, we go from waste to really thinking about how do we save that energy? How do we do that? So I'm going to bring up a couple of associates to talk a little bit about energy. Charles Zimmerman and Chris Saltemeyer, come join me here and talk about a little bit about what you guys are doing. I'd like to welcome these guys. Now, when I sat down next to Charles this morning, Charles has a button on that I've never seen before. And I don't know if you guys could zero in on this. It says 37. But Charles wouldn't tell me what it meant.
Yeah, let's go to the first slide.
It's
It's really a great story. So, you know, when you think about 100% renewable energy, everybody knows that goal, but a lot of you don't understand the incremental goals that we've established and passed on our way to get to where we are today. So if you look at this slide, our strategy has always been to reduce our energy consumption over time, so make our buildings more and more efficient, and then offset what demand is left with renewable energy. It's a great strategy. But if you go back to 2005, we had two building-related goals. That first one you see, reduce our greenhouse gas emissions in existing stores, clubs, and DCs by 20% by 2012. That was focused on existing stores. Design 25 to 30% more energy-efficient proto in every market by 2009. That was focused on our new stores. Now, I'm going to do something in here I've never done publicly before, and it's a Mike Duke imitation. And it has some body language to it. But in November of 2009, Mike stood in this auditorium and said this: "We are on track to achieve 36 of our 37 initiatives." That 37th initiative was that greenhouse gas goal. That was in 2009. We were having serious discussions about going publicly and saying we can't achieve this. So I got with Doug and we identified one person in each market, made them members of the Project 37 team, and not only did we achieve that goal that we were lagging far behind, we actually achieved it a year early. Now, if we go back to the previous slide real quick. So we achieved those goals, so we had to establish some more. So in 2013, we established a new goal on energy efficiency to reduce or make our buildings 20% more efficient by 2020. And I wanted to tell everybody in here exactly where we were on that mission, but Kathleen's team told me I can't. So let me give you a visual, and this is just for the international division. If this front row is 0% to 20%, international is, so we're about halfway through the goal, so if we were good, this is where we'd be. But actually, the international markets are about right here. And before the end of this year, maybe end of first quarter next year, we'll be over here. Now, that's great to achieve a goal, but that goal represents savings to our customers, savings to our company of $250 million per year in energy expense. And when you combine it with that other goal, the renewable energy goal, down at the bottom, when we achieve both of these by 2020, that'll equate to over $1 billion per year that we're saving and putting in our customers' pockets, not to mention the greenhouse gas benefits. So if you go to the next slide, you know, our road to efficiency was a little bit difficult because in 2005, we already had what I thought was the most efficient fleet of stores anywhere in the world. And if you look at this picture, the LED parking lot lights up in the corner didn't exist in 2005. The high-efficiency rooftop units you see in the picture next to the skylights, that equipment didn't exist in 2005. The LED sales floor lighting you see didn't exist in 2005. I could go on and on and on. We knew we had to create new technologies to get to where we needed to be, and that's exactly what we've done and what we're continuing to do. If you go to the next slide, you know, the 100% renewable energy goal, In 2005 sounded like probably the most aspirational of the 3 goals to me. But I can tell you today your company is already at 26%. And when you look at this picture, the photovoltaic panels in the US, I think you probably know, but I think it's worth repeating. Your Walmart has the largest installed capacity of solar of any company in the US. Your Walmart. You go to the next slide. We'd love to generate all the renewables we need on site, but it just can't be done. So we're also involved in some large-scale wind farms. And just as one example, that turbine in Mexico, we actually are involved in 4 wind farms in Mexico. And you may not know this, but we have 2,300 locations in Mexico. Over 50% of our energy today is produced by renewable sources. And all of these renewable sources I've been talking about, we actually pay less for the energy from those sources than we do the brown power from the grid. So Chris, I'm as excited as I've ever been about working for this company, and I know you have some good stuff going on with Fleet.
I do, Charles, and it's interesting to hear the parallels about what has gone on in our stores along with the technology and the different things we've added from the standpoint of the transportation side of the business. I know when I sat in this audience in 2005 and Lee made the announcement that we were going to double the fleet efficiency, Rollin, I think at that time I was glad Tim Yatsko was running the fleet. Little did I know that in a few years I would be in that chair. But it was a very large goal for us and a goal that we did not know how we would achieve at that time. Now, when we talk about fleet efficiency, how we measure that is on cases shipped per gallon burned. That's how we use our standard for measuring our performance in that area. I'm happy to announce that as of October of this year, year to date, we are at 102% of our doubling our efficiency goal from where we compare to our 2005 baseline. So we will hit it this year. We will double our fleet efficiency. Similar to our stores, we thought we were running a good operation prior to this. Without this type of an audacious goal, I don't think we would have done a lot of the things we needed to do to hit these kind of numbers. I'm going to turn it over to Elizabeth Fretheim, and she's going to talk a little bit about the different things that we're doing to make that goal a reality today. So Elizabeth, go right ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. You know, we really focused on 3 high-level key initiatives. We wanted to fill our trailers, we wanted to reduce our miles, and we wanted to have the most efficient equipment. And when I look back on that success, almost every part of our company and our supply chain were a part of driving that success. Our equipment suppliers, like Great Dane, Thermo King, Transport Refrigeration, Cummins, and Peterbilt, all worked with us to innovate their equipment to help us save fuel and reduce emissions while still increasing efficiency and safety. And we're going to continue to work with them to push technology. In fact, today we're standing in front of a truck that's being used for autonomous technology development. Our drivers, like Mike, they've adjusted how they drive to continue to get the best performance out of the changing equipment. And he knows he can get that performance because our maintenance technicians like Jamie are working every day to ensure the safety, efficiency, and reliability of our equipment. Our store managers like Brian have worked with us on deliveries and volumes to ensure we can maintain our efficiency. Our product vendors and merchants have done a fantastic job innovating their products and their packaging so that we can get more on every trailer. And loaders like Felipe use their Tetris mastery to do just that, fill the trailer. And when we close the door, routers like Karina have already mapped out the safest and most efficient route while helping us to eliminate empty miles with backhauls. Now, I wish I had the time to thank everyone, but know that we do thank all of you for being a part of our success. Now, Chris, I know you have a couple of people you do want to call out specially, though, so I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I tell you, there are 2 people that I do want to recognize real quickly. First off, Robert Kelly, if you would stand up. One of our drivers out of Searcy, Arkansas. He has been driving now for over 30 years, and over 4 million safe miles during those 30 years. 2.1 million of those are with Walmart. The real neat thing about Robert is I want you to understand what he does when he's driving safe. This gentleman right here is getting over 8 miles a gallon. Now, you think about your car and you think, well, 8 miles, big deal. You've got to remember these trucks are pulling 80,000 pounds. So he's getting over 8 miles a gallon, actually 8.2 miles a gallon. Our fleet average is about 7.2 miles a gallon. And here last week, he was one of 23 drivers within the company that achieved over 9 miles a gallon. So again, help me recognize Robert. Thank you, Robert. McLaughlin, if you would stand up. McLaughlin is one of our loaders. A good loader in our network, our goal is 2,100 cases per trailer, Stephen. That's good. McLaughlin achieves over 20% more than that, 2,600 cases per trailer. And remember, this gentleman loads 60,000 cases per week. And he's doing those kind of numbers. Thank you very much, McLaughlin. Last, just to wrap up a couple of last points. What I want to do is put this in perspective. If you compare to how we were performing in 2005, this year we will ship about 1 billion more cases than we shipped in 2005. If we performed at the 2005 level, we would drive this year 465 million miles more than what we will actually drive. Now, I know the numbers are big. Let me pull it back. That's about $1 billion in savings this year compared to how we would have performed in 2005. So it's huge numbers, it's huge dollars, and I will tell you from the standpoint of moving forward, we've got a lot of room for improvement that we're still focused on. So efficiency, safety, all of those things are where we'll put our energy in, Don.
You know, Chris, this is absolutely amazing if you think about what your team has done, Charles, what your team has done. I think we can all come to the conclusion that sustainability is good for our customers, it's good for our business, but you know, more importantly, it's good for our planet. We almost walk the walk and talk the talk. Practice it every day. So our challenge to you is turn to your neighbor and make sure that your neighbor is thinking about sustainability the way you are. Think like an operator. Hate waste. Thank you.
Years ago, Walmart made a commitment to conserve 1 acre of critical wildlife habitat in the United States for every acre of land developed by the company. Acres for America, a first-of-its-kind program led by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, has far surpassed its goal to offset Walmart's 100,000-acre footprint. With over 1 million acres protected, more than 10 times the original goal of the program, and more than 10 million acres of wildlife habitats have benefited from these investments.
Acres for America is about public-private partnerships working to do more with each other than they could do on their own, and that's what makes it very special.
Acres for America has funded more than 60 projects across the country. In the shadow of Mount Shasta in California, the Acres program has protected the historic spawning grounds of coho and Chinook salmon. On the shores of Lake Michigan, threatened species are now protected, and local communities have new opportunities for outdoor recreation. In Down East Maine, the second largest conservation easement in U.S. history protects lakes, rivers, and wetlands, while at the same time supporting the local economy.
Acres for America is the largest corporately funded land conservation program in the history of the United States, and it was Walmart's commitment that made it all possible.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm Jeff Trandle, and I run the foundation. And I have a very simple job, which is to thank all of you for letting us work with you and letting us achieve that incredible goal called Acres for America. I, too, got the lecture from Lee Scott, which was, we're not going to do this to be good. We're not going to do this to be great. We're going to do this to be the best. And this is absolutely Walmart at its best. We've been able to conserve more than 1 million acres together in the last 10 years, which is 10 times the goal that we set out to do. It is the largest program like this in the country, and you have led, and it was your vision with us that allowed that to happen. The second thing I'm here to do today is to announce that we are announcing a renewal of the program, and we're going to do another 10-year program where we look to double that accomplishment. John?
Thank you, Jeff. Kathleen, we're behind on schedule, so I've cut my notes down as requested to pretty much the most important part. Big thank you to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. Everything you saw in that video would not have been accomplished had it not been for their expertise and their leadership. Some of your team is here today, including Kirk Dupes that you saw in the video. Tom, Rob, if you guys would stand real quick and let us thank you. Rob's in the back. The first 10 years has been an amazing success, far exceeding my expectations and certainly anyone that was involved. Looking forward to the next 10 years. Let's see how great this can be. Thank you, guys.
All right, good morning. As Kathleen said, I am thrilled, honored, humbled to begin to step into a new role in terms of sustainability. But before I do that, full-time starting January 1st, it's my pleasure today to talk to you about our third goal, and that's how merchants thought about sustainability, how we have worked over the past 10 years to deliver what we call sustainable products, or as I like to call, we like to deliver great products to our customers. You know, fundamentally, that's what merchants do. We're all about finding innovation to drive sales, reducing costs to lower prices, collaborating with our suppliers to really bring value and the best product we can to our customers, and getting it there efficiently so that we can improve our in-stock. So I'm going to wear my merchant hat today, and I'm going to talk to two of our lead merchants in Walmart US, Steve Bratsby's, and Sam's Club, John Ferner, and we're going to share a couple of stories about how we're embedding sustainability into our products organization, and we're going to show you a couple of examples. So as you guys come up, let me talk to you about an exciting new tool that we've worked on with the Sustainability Consortium and our partners at SAP. You know, as we started looking at this, Steve and John, several years ago, we realized that in order to really impact the environment and to have the business impact that we wanted, we're going to have to go deep in our supply chain. As you guys both know, 90% of the impact in our environmental footprint is actually in our supply chain. And what that means is it's going to take our buyers and our suppliers working together across every step of the supply chain to innovate and to drive value. But this is hard. You know, our buyers, our suppliers, you know, aren't experts in this space. And so what we found is that we had to make it easy for them. And that what we also found, we're good at data. So we brought those two things together, simplicity and data, and with our partners created the Sustainability Index. And you can see an example here from the coffee category. And what this has done is to allow our teams to collaborate together on the most important issues, if you will, the hot spots. Then we can work together, and it's all about a race to the top. And so we work with our suppliers, we rank them in their categories, and we bring in that data to the supplier meeting and say, now talk to me about why you're number 5. I want to see you number 1, and the next time we meet, I hope you're number 1. And we've been able to move businesses and make impact in product through this approach with data, collaboration, and really challenging the race to the top. So this is what it looks like in terms of the Sustainability Index. Let me show you how we're going to use that data as we go forward. We're really now using this data to target the hot spots. You know, we all use scorecards in our business every day, don't we? We understand red, yellow, green. We understand the metrics. We're going to be driving these metrics even further in the organization. We have 1,700 suppliers on our index today. That covers about $135 billion of sales between the two of your organizations. So we're excited to take this into the future with your help. So with that, let's talk a minute about what does this mean in your organizations? What do you think this means to your buyers, to your suppliers? And how do you think about sustainability in your new roles?
Sure. Thanks, Laura, and congratulations on your new roles. The index is really important, and if you're a merchant, you're a buyer, there's really two reasons why it's really important. One, it's important to our customer, and it's important to the business. And I think we're going to share a couple examples of that. But let me start with the customers. We're always supposed to start with the customer. The millennial customer is becoming more and more important, and I know we talk about it a lot as a company as to what's happening with millennials, how things are changing. And if you talk to millennials, more than any other customer, by 22%, they say working or shopping with a socially responsible company is important. And those millennials are going through a lot of change. They're starting to form households, Sean, which we know changes consumption patterns. Millennials with kids, that number from 22% goes to 33%. So it's fundamentally important to our customer in the future that we're a socially responsible company and a sustainable company. The second part is it's really important and good for our business. So Doug, you talked about showing items. Let me show an item of where we're making a difference. So what we have here and how the example of how the index was used is Holiday Barbie, one of our favorites every single year, big seller for us. Our partners at Mattel work with Anne-Marie Kehoe, Andy Prince, to understand what they should focus on. And you see this plastic cover right here? This is the 2014 Holiday Barbie, 2015. This is PVC non-recyclable. This year, PET recyclable. You say, okay, good. 44 million pounds of non-recyclable product is now taken out of the market just because of this. So Mattel has taken this, not only their Barbie line, across all their action figures and made a huge difference. Just one little piece on one product equates to 44 million pounds difference in landfills. John, I know you got a couple examples too.
Yeah, we do, Steve. And it's important to Sam's Club as well to think about our service of business members. We sell to restaurant owners, we sell to resellers, convenience stores. And what I'm even hearing first in my first month, Laura, as I'm talking to business members, is requests for better items because that's what they hear from their customers. And so if it's all about the customer, when they're looking for better, they expect us to be the source for that. And I brought just a couple items. This is just a standard plastic igloo cooler. And with working with what's in the cooler, this is actually now about 40% recycled material. It's cost neutral to the consumer, and it's better for the environment, and this is an example of how working upstream can help. I wanted to bring the vacuum and talk about it because this is an item that in its own category, Laura, great job, is, do you want that for Christmas?
Yeah. No.
No, no. I caught you.
Who would do that?
Yeah, right. I won't do that. But back on topic. The item in the brand is actually number 2 on the index, and this item, I've got a couple other examples I can share that where we're number 1, number 2 on the index are running 10+% increases in the business. And can you say one is cause and and that's the effect? I don't know if that's true, but what we do know is where we see suppliers that are investing time and energy into quality of product, quality of materials, and really in the details, we are seeing great economic success. So at Sam's, we want to improve quality. Quality negates the need to replace products, which is great across the supply chain, which has an impact. So between what we're doing, John, and the TSC, and then along with quality, we think we can win in this space.
Well, thank you for your leadership. We look forward to continued engagement with the buyers and the suppliers. And next, we're going to invite up a panel to hear a little bit deeper about some of our merchants working with suppliers in the supply chain. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, it's always fun to show product. That's what we do. We sell product, and when we can sell better product, that just makes us even more excited about that. So I'm going to welcome up the next panel, and we're going to talk a little bit deeper about product and merchandising, and we're going to talk with some of our great merchants and some of our really our great collaborative suppliers. Now, to help me to facilitate this panel is a good friend from EDF, Elizabeth Sturkin, and Elizabeth has been with us along this journey for the last 10 years, helping work very closely with us alongside the business to help educate us. How do we really begin to impact the supply chain? So help me welcome to the panel. We've got Carmen Bauza runs our health and wellness consumables business, Ashley Buchanan in our dry grocery space, and then we have John Church from General Mills, and we have Carolyn from P&G. So welcome to you guys, and we'll just take a seat and start talking about what we've done. And as we think about this, this next portion of the discussion, we wanted to also update everybody on the achievement of a very exciting goal. And so if we'd put the slide up, you know, several years ago, Elizabeth, you personally challenged us that we could do more about greenhouse gas in our supply chain, working with our merchants and working with our suppliers. And when we started this work together, it was difficult. And I think you challenged us on a 20 million metric ton goal. And in fact, we are announcing today that we have not only met that goal, but achieved it through our supply chain partnerships, and that we've reached 28 million metric tons. And so I want to announce that today, congratulate the teams. This has been because of our buyers, our suppliers, the engagement into the business that we've been able to achieve this. And we're only getting started. We know we have a lot more to do. So help me congratulate the team.
I want to bask in those 10 seconds of applause, because what do you get when you put 10 years together with one really ambitious goal and a lot of hard work? You get a lot of business and customer value, and you get a lot of big environmental change. And I'm really proud of it, because it has been a lot of hard work. We thought it was going to be an easy goal. To quote Matt Kissler, we thought we'd blow right by it, but that wasn't the case. It took a lot to find the big areas of opportunity and product improvement in the supply chain. So I'm excited to talk to these folks here, and especially a couple of suppliers who've done some really ambitious things, frankly, and set some absolute goals, and quite impressive. And because you've set those absolute goals, you've really set the bar very high for all of the rest of us doing this work. I think what makes this goal so impressive and the achievement of it is the systems transforming work. When we first looked across the supply chain and found those big areas of opportunity, turns out fertilizer use on farms was one big area of opportunity, perhaps the biggest in the entire supply chain, given how much food Walmart sells. That began a project where we were optimizing fertilizer use on farms with a lot of our partners. So the projects that have emerged here really are systems transformational work. John, I want to ask you a question. How have Walmart and General Mills partnered to promote sustainable ag throughout the supply chains?
So our partnership really started 10 years ago around the time of this goal with our Chief Sustainability Officer, and I'm told by John Johnson at the University of Arkansas, the father of organic farming at scale, Gene Kahn, really helping shape what our goals should be and what our participation should be. And we started initially really focusing on the network, the operations, melding our supply chains together, driving out waste, which was effective, but as you mentioned, in the food supply chain, it's necessary but not sufficient. So much of our footprint is in the front end in agriculture, and so more recently, we've worked together on a partnership, Field to Market, the Alliance for Sustainable Agriculture. And this is an idea of taking best practices, visibility, and tools and sharing them broadly with farmers to ensure that we can take advantage of the best practice, we can allow competition and transparency to drive improvements and raise all boats. And the opportunity for us, we think, is terrific because it focuses on goals like yield, like building carbon in the soil, ensuring just enough nitrogen and no more, and utilizing tools so that the application of that nitrogen is better from a fertilizer standpoint, and preventing runoff into the waterways. And so we're very excited. Walmart's been a convening partner of that with us, and we're excited in the work we've done. Last year, we committed to a 2.5 million acres that we'd have under the Field to Market process, and feel good about achieving that goal.
Congratulations. One interesting thing about this work is that not only is it driving business value for retailer and for supplier, it's really driving customer value too. How often have you looked at the date stamped on a food product and said, can I still eat this? Well, you know, Walmart's changed date labeling to make it absolutely clear to customers how long the food is good, so you don't throw it away before it's time. So I wanted to ask you about customers, Ashley. Tell me about the partnership with General Mills and Walmart and how it's been good for both the business but for the customer also.
Yeah, it's been great. We actually partner with growers upstream to reduce fertilizer usage and actually increased yield, which at Walmart ultimately reduced the cost, which is good for the customer, but it also increased surety of supply, particularly not just in the fields but downstream in the rivers and in the oceans, which I got to see firsthand on a trip I went on. And for General Mills and Walmart, we have a real opportunity to continue to lead in sustainable agriculture. I know we'll hit our regional goal, but we're just really scratching the surface, and there's a lot more to do around increased productivity and yield, reducing emissions, and really making sure we have a resilient and safe food system.
It takes a lot of people doing a lot of hard work together to accomplish these goals. NGOs like CDP, along with EDF, consultants like Deloitte, who were there in the beginning. Also, the innovators at Walmart, Jim Stanway, who saw this vision, and Rob Kaplan, who really did the hard work. How about suppliers? Carmen, I'm interested in hearing about what role suppliers play in reducing greenhouse gases in the supply chain.
Well, they do play a very important role in this journey, as it is a journey, and we've been in this journey now for 10 years. And in our partnership, with our suppliers, specifically with P&G, and I know Carolyn will talk about an example later, but the suppliers bring us all these great products, and we together in partnership need to make sure that the products that they bring to market are efficient, right? So at the end of the day, driving the efficiency will allow us then to drive everyday low cost, right? So, and I think laundry detergent will be a perfect example of the work that we've been working on for several years.
Carolyn, I was wondering, P&G has been working on your own supply chain, and you recently set a goal to reduce absolute greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2020. Tell us about that commitment and why it's important to your business.
Yeah, we have been doing some great work with you, and we really believe that the opportunity from a sustainability standpoint, it's not only the opportunity for positive change, but it is, exactly as you have been saying today, great business. So we've set 4 visionary goals for ourselves. One is to be 100% renewable energy. And for our fabric care business, we have announced that we will be moving to 100% wind energy by the end of calendar year 2016. The second goal that we've set is 100% renewable resources from a product standpoint. And so we're going to continue to work with our suppliers to make sure that we can bring that to life. And one example of that is that we've got a partnership with DuPont, whereby we are working with them to convert corn leaves to corn-based ethanol so that we can get to renewable resources. So that's the second goal, 100% renewable resources. The third goal for us is zero waste, and I've heard you talk about that a lot today. But zero waste for us is about our manufacturing facilities and also from a consumer perspective. And globally, we have, at this point, over 50% of our manufacturing sites that are 100% zero waste, and we're going to continue to drive that. And so those are the 3 goals from an environmental standpoint. The fourth goal is equally as important, and it is that while we do that, we want to continue to make products that delight consumers and deliver for consumers the product performance that they expect from us, that you expect from us, that will continue to deliver for them, because the consumer is fundamentally at the heart of what we do.
And it's delightful to pause and to reflect on all of the hard work and all of the accomplishments to date, and then look forward and embrace challenges moving forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate the panel. And thank you so much. And as we wrap up this section talking about products, I would just also end with a challenge to our merchants, our buyers around the world, our suppliers. Continue to talk about this, continue to use the index, continue to innovate, continue to reduce costs, lower prices, and really drive efficiency in all of the product that you manage across the world. Thanks so much.
I'm Larry Solar. I'm CEO of the Partnership for a Healthier America. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about food and nutrition, our work with Walmart. It's really a pleasure to be here with you today, recognizing Walmart's commitment for making healthier choices easier for busy parents and families. PHA was formed in 2010 to work with the private sector and the First Lady, who's our honorary chair, to help end childhood obesity. Today we have nearly 200 private sector partners that in some way have committed to making the healthy choice the easy choice. So in 2011, when we began to examine the issue of food deserts, it was estimated that 25 million Americans lacked access to healthy food. Expecting families to buy vegetables at the corner liquor store was not a solution. So we needed partners to help us develop new effective solutions. Walmart stepped up and committed to build 275 to 300 stores in areas with low access to these foods. Last year, the commitment was surpassed. The company built more than 375 stores in those communities in less than 4 years. And we knew it would take more than just building stores to create an impact, and Walmart knew that too. And that's why you're doing so much more, from reformulating packaged foods to be healthier, to providing increased information about healthier items at the point of purchase for consumers, to lowering prices for fruits and vegetables. That work is well underway, and we look forward to continuing our collaboration to bring that to a finality. What's also exemplary is our partnership with your team. Kathleen, McLaughlin, Andrea Thomas, Trez Bailey, they've been invaluable allies, and we know many, many more people have been working on this issue. 5 years ago, the founders of PHA came together with the idea that the private sector could play a meaningful impact in improving the health of our nation. I'm proud to say that we are now seeing a shift in the marketplace. So for the first time, we're seeing significant decreases in obesity rates in young children, up to 40% decreases in obesity rates in young children, first time in decades. And it's because of industry leaders like you who are making this happen. So as a token of PHA's appreciation today, we'd like to present Walmart with PHA's Apple Award for completing your first commitment. To accept the award, I'd like to welcome Kathleen, McLaughlin, Sean Baldwin to the stage. Thank you, Kathleen, Sean, all of Walmart, for all of your good work. We look forward to continuing to work with you, making lives healthier for American families.
Thank you very much, Larry. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Wow. This award really goes out to all the Walmart associates here and around the world who worked so hard on these commitments. You know, food is our biggest business at Walmart. And we're also the nation and the world's biggest food retailer. So it's a really important business for us. And we've made a number of commitments around sustainable food, which means for us, lowering the true cost of food, making it affordable for the customers, but also for the environment, making it accessible, making it healthier in the ways Larry talked about, and also safety and transparency. And this wouldn't be a milestone meeting if we didn't check in on a couple of the other commitments that are coming due this year and that we're actively working on now. So Sean, tell us about a couple of the highlights around affordability.
Happy to do that. A couple things we'll start with. Inside affordability and that pillar, when you look around with it, the first one is climate smart agriculture. And we're spending a lot of time with our current supplier base, spending time with them going back through how to do this correctly using the sustainability index. We're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. We're conserving water and increasing yields, which obviously, I mentioned earlier, passes right on to our customer, Kathleen, when you look at it. The second one I'd like to bring up is our palm oil and Brazilian beef initiative. We're in the home stretch right now to source all of these commodities. I'm happy to announce today that we'll have, by the end of this year, all of our private brands will be 100% sustainably sourced in both of those, which is fantastic. The third one I'd like to highlight is the farmer training. We've made a commitment to train 1 million farmers, half of them women. during that time frame. And I'm here to tell you that at the end of last year, exciting, we've already trained 500,000 of them. 290,000 of them were women, and we have funding in place to train the remainder of 835,000 more. So there's one other thing I'd like to bring up today around access. When you take a look inside it, our team made a commitment 5 years ago that we would try to double our local produce sourcing. And we are inches away from being able to announce that at the end of this year as well. So all the folks in produce sourcing, if you can help me thank them as well, they've done a great job in the last 5 years.
Thank you. Thanks. Let me just round it out by hitting on a couple of other highlights around access and healthy. So our other big commitment under the access pillar is charitable meals. So we've made a commitment to deliver 4 billion meals between 2015 and 2020. And I'm excited to say, as Dawn alluded to earlier, we are well on our way. We've been donating over 1 billion meals a year, so that commitment is right on track. And thanks to all the great people in ops who really helped make that happen. And then in terms of healthy food, as Larry said, we have another number of other commitments that come due at the end of this calendar year. So reformulating food to reduce sugar, salt, and trans fat, to lower the price of food for our customers. So we've been able to save them over $4 billion to date on that initiative, which is fantastic. This is fresh food. And we've also rolled out our Great For You label, which tells the customer that an item is better for them on over 30% of our private brand. So we're excited about the progress we've made on those commitments. Also through the foundation and through corporate giving, we've educated 1 million people in nutrition in the last fiscal year. So great progress on those. We'll write up the full report on where we landed out at the end of the year in our Global Responsibility Report in the spring, so stay tuned for that. But we're excited about the terrific progress, and thanks for your leadership, Sean.
You bet, absolutely. Those are great highlights. We have made significant progress, but our customers are asking us to do even more. And as their buying agents, we're here to deliver, and we're going to do that. So just a couple things to wrap up on this end. Doug made a comment in the past that food is personal. It definitely is personal, especially fresh food when you take a look at it. And customer trust is tantamount to us making progress in this area. So for us to get that done, though, we're going to need the help of all of our NGOs, our government agencies, and all of our suppliers, especially the forward-thinking suppliers. A lot of them are in this room today that have really helped us get to this point. Great. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you. Great. So as we said earlier, when we say sustainability, we mean people and planet. We're trying to enhance the sustainability of our supply chains, not only for the environment, but for the folks who work in the chain. And at this point, I'd love to introduce someone who works on this 24/7 in her day job, and that's Miss Jan Somweber. Jan, please join me up here. So Jan, one of the major areas where the company is trying to improve conditions for folks in the supply chain is in responsible sourcing, the part of the company that you run. Tell us, what does it mean for you to say that sustainability includes people as well as planet?
Yes. Thanks, Kathleen. It means that we are working to build safe, healthy, and inclusive workplaces that also provide ladders of opportunity. Our approach is one of leveraging our size and our strengths to help others. We identify areas of concern, geographies, and industries of concern, and then we work to strengthen the systems so that we can develop lasting solutions. We know these issues are complex, and it's going to require work across multiple stakeholders, including retailers, suppliers, NGOs, governments, and the workers themselves.
Oh, that's right. And one of the areas that you've been working very hard is in Bangladesh. Can you tell us a little bit about the progress?
Absolutely. We were a founding member of the Alliance for Bangladesh Worker Safety, and Walmart, in concert with the other members, have been working after doing inspections for structural and fire safety in facilities from which Alliance members source. We worked with factory owners to develop corrective action plans. These help the important work of remediation begin and really frame that work. We've developed corrective action plans now for almost 600 facilities from which the Alliance members source. In partnerships with 2 development organizations, we've also made available financing, affordable financing to factory owners from which the members source. It's important because remediation does cost money. Beyond remediation, we also have expanded the Alliance Helpline that we piloted last year, now to over 400 factories, so that workers can report potential concerns before they escalate into big issues. And importantly, we developed a new training program and trained more than 1.1 million workers. And the University of Texas did an impact assessment to see what difference this made. And the results were pretty compelling. 88% of workers following the training know how to react in case of emergency, and this is up from 61% prior to the training. 84% believe that fire drills and safety trainings are critical even during peak work seasons. That's up from only 37% before they saw what the training entailed. 90% of workers now believe it is their obligation to report unsafe working conditions. That's up from 67%. And my personal favorite, coming off a baseline of 25% of workers who felt unsafe in their factories most of the time, that number is down to 6% following the training. This is a case where knowledge really is power, and this knowledge has empowered the workers. So we're really excited about that, and they'll have that knowledge with them the rest of their lives. So Kathleen, tell me a little bit more about what we're doing to elevate people in the supply chain.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to say congratulations to you and the responsible sourcing team. That is a ton of work to achieve those results you just talked about, and something that we can all be proud of. And it's taken, as you say, a lot of collaboration with many others beyond Walmart, certainly all the Alliance members and others on the ground in Bangladesh. So that's fantastic. I'd love to just pause on this and give you a hand.
Thank you.
So to your point, there are some other things that we're working on to try to improve conditions for folks in the supply chain. So one of them is our Women's Economic Empowerment Initiative, which has two parts to it. One is sourcing. So we are sourcing more from businesses run by women. But the other part is training. So we made a commitment 4 years ago to train 1 million women in supply chains. So not just our supply chains, but supply chains around the world. And we said 60,000 of those would be in factories. So places like Bangladesh, India, China, Latin America, and so on. And so we've worked with a number of our partners, Swasti, World Vision, CARE, BSR, to do this, and worked with them to create a training program out of whole cloth. It didn't exist before, that focuses on life skills and worker productivity skills to help those women have a voice, not only in the factory setting, but even at home, nutrition for their families, family planning, things like this. And so we said we would train 60,000 by the end of next calendar year. Well, I'm really excited to report that we expect to have fully trained 84,000 women based on the funding in place today. So that's fantastic, and I'm really proud of the foundation and all of our grantees for achieving that.
That's terrific, thank you. As we work to build supply chains that are good for workers, it means we have to understand challenges that go deeper in the supply chain, maybe in places where we don't even have direct relationships. Yeah. An example of where Walmart is doing this is working in the seafood industry to understand and combat issues around forced labor and human trafficking in Southeast Asia. To support this effort, we have begun to offer training to our suppliers to strengthen their management of responsible sourcing risks in their supply chains. And we're also actively engaging with the government of Thailand, both in Bangkok and in Washington, D.C., to share Walmart's views that human trafficking is extremely serious and should be prosecuted under the laws of Thailand to deter the practice. We recognize that successfully combating human trafficking is going to depend on everyone working together. In this case, it's retailers and restaurants and seafood suppliers and NGOs and the International Labor Organization, and most critically, the Royal Government of Thailand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And one of the things that we started to do is see where philanthropy can play a role. So through the Walmart Foundation, we've given a grant to the International Justice Mission, and Anna Pannier is here today from IJM. And what we've asked them to do is a couple of things with that grant. One is build out the data set to give more transparency or visibility into the issue. So they're doing that. They're creating a data center out of their own case management and also other government and non-government sources, so that people in the industry can get a handle on what is the scale of the trafficking problem, where is it happening. So that's really critical. And they're also going to do an assessment of the public justice system. So to your point, we can understand what are the gaps in terms of local authorities being able to prosecute people involved in that type of activity. So it's a really important initiative. It's a long way to go, and I would say, we're just beginning, but it's something that we really believe we need to take a look at and see what's possible with others in the industry.
I would agree. Walmart's business is always centered on helping people live better. And this mission applies not only to our customers and our associates, but to the workers who make the products that our customers love.
Yeah, it's difficult work. And, we just appreciate, again, can't say it enough, the collaboration of associates, suppliers, NGO partners, governments, and other retailers in going after this. It's the right thing for our customers, and it's the right thing for the world. Thanks, Jan. Appreciate it. Let's welcome Carter Roberts from World Wildlife Fund. Carter, you've been a key partner of ours over many years. I think we started working with you not long after this whole thing got started. So, as you've kind of sat here today and listened to us take stock of some of the accomplishments since then, what's on your mind? How does it relate to your priorities at World Wildlife Fund?
So, first of all, the numbers are spectacular. I love it. You can't help but be energized by the progress you've made, and also by the fact that you're measuring the progress in such a real way. At WWF, we honor all the work we've done with Walmart. We also just recently reoriented all of our work toward not just the goals for us, but toward larger goals for the planet. And we've hitched our wagon to these sustainable development goals that the leaders of the world just came together in New York on September 25th and committed to. And if you look at the sustainable development goals, they reflect everything we're talking about today. And so we've set our goals at the level of those global goals and looked hard at what we can do to help the institutions that matter most to bend the curve on those goals, and that's utterly changed our outlook. So those goals are on food, forests, oceans, water, climate, and it is oriented us much more to the biggest systems that matter in the world and the institutions that have the greatest influence and matter the most.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. We've been looking at those too, as we've been thinking about how far have we come, what's next for us, and it's been interesting to see that overlap between those 17 goals and things that we're working on too. So with that in mind, knowing us the way you do, what advice would you have for us about looking forward in the next 10 years?
Well, it's interesting. What happens is when you set goals that are bigger than you are, they require you to think very hard about what are the systems out there, what is your role relative to those systems, whether it's governance, supply chains, entire sectors, and it makes you think about your unique role in the constellation of institutions. And when I think about Walmart and your extraordinary reach, the customers you have, the relationships with all the companies in this room, your ability to lift the sector and to influence governments to move in the direction of sustainability is huge. And so my perspective, my advice is the more you can think at that scale about how do you bring a collective action about that makes a measurable difference at a global scale, it builds on all the great stuff that we've been talking about today. And I think that's what the next 10 years should be about.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to continuing that dialogue with you and with others. Thanks a lot, Carter.
Thank you.
Who better than Walmart to stretch our energy and material dollars further than anyone ever has in the history of business?
Reducing waste, being more efficient, and doing the right things the right way will lower cost for your factories, for your businesses, and for the Walmart customer.
The company set some big goals: to be powered by 100% renewable energy, to create zero waste, to sell products that sustain people and the environment.
Part of our job is to bring along a supply chain so that everybody in the world has access to safe, healthy food that is delivered in an increasingly transparent manner.
How you bring your products to the customers, it's not just a trend, it's something that is the wave of the future.
I also love Walmart because they're really into, on their own, without having government tell them to do it, but they on their own said, we want to be green, we want to go and to reduce our carbon footprint, and so that's really very admirable, and I'm very happy about that.
We wanted to bring together the scale of Walmart around sustainability, the power of technology that we're doing here, and to integrate it into our shopping experience, because that's where it really makes a difference.
We can improve people's lives. We can actually find a way to give opportunity to everyone.
Because what's good for the environment, for society, for public health, is also good for business.
They're working to empower nearly 1 million women through training who are learning to become part of the process for getting food from farm to table.
These issues represent a gateway for Walmart in becoming the most competitive and innovative company in this world.
More and more companies like Walmart are realizing that wasting less energy isn't just good for the planet, it's good for business.
We're committed to increasing our fleet efficiency by 25% in the next 3 years and doubling it in 10 years.
When I see a company like Walmart launch an initiative like this, I feel more hopeful than ever before.
So from fields, from factories, from oceans, from farms, all the way to the hands and the homes of our customers, we can rewire the system.
We had like everybody but the Pope in that video. Can you work on that? It was obvious he was missing from that equation. Carter, I know we're running a little bit tight on time, but I want to ask you about deforestation. You guys do a lot of work in that area, and you didn't have a chance to talk about it. Would you please?
Well, we work with NASA and a number of universities around the world, and we talked about the impact of climate change. And I asked the chief scientist, what is the single issue, the place where you see this loom largest? And she said, it is the intersection of food production and forests. That is where the tension in the world is great now and will get greater. Mm-hmm. And I love our work with you on thinking about your commitment to remove deforestation from your supply chains. We're starting with pulp and paper, and all the work you're doing on palm oil and other food supplies has an impact on that too. I think it's huge. I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you for your partnership and your leadership in that area too.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks, Carter.
It's great.
All right. It's easy to see, isn't it, that we need help. I mean, we need expertise, we need knowledge, we need leadership, and all of you that have been recognized today are playing a big role in it, and we appreciate it. We started with Peter and Fred and wanted to talk about the beginning, and he mentioned the role that Rob played, and that Rob doesn't like a lot of attention, but we got him here today, and I want to get him up to talk to you a little bit. Would you please help me welcome Rob Walton?
Good morning.
Just to be clear, we can stand up, sit down, talk about whatever you want, so you're in charge here.
Boy, I thought I was going to answer questions.
I'll ask you a few. Let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that the conversation that Peter shared with us at that moment in time, you didn't know what was going to happen when this thing got unleashed, I wouldn't think. But tell us what was on your mind when it first started.
Well, first I have to kind of correct the record. Peter's recollection bears some resemblance to the truth. But what I really recall is that I was interested in an environmental program, and others in the family were, for our family foundation, which has become significant, and asked a fellow from the World Bank and Peter to come to Bentonville and visit about that, and so they did. And in fact, I didn't know it was Peter, but this guy said, I'd like to bring somebody. So anyway, he brought Peter, and we talked about what I wanted to talk about, but Peter had in mind that a company with Walmart's scope could make a real difference. And so we were in the quail room, and Lee was around, so Lee came in and joined us and talked for a while, and Peter planted that seed that really has developed into this. But you can't, I mean, Lee Scott was receptive, had the vision, presented it to you 30-somethings, and it took hold. Jib Ellison's role hasn't been mentioned so much today, but Jib was extremely important and engaged and involved in developing the program as it came together. And I was minimally, I assure you, but always supporting and so proud. You know, I was proud when Lee stepped out, and you know, being here today is very, very special.
I can imagine. So we've done a lot since then. You know, it started without a lot of shape, and now today you could hear some of the things that have been done. How do you feel about the progress that's been made so far?
Well, I think it's fantastic. You know, this is absolutely a journey. We'll never be finished with. We may get to these goals. I think having these huge, possibly unachievable goals, but these big goals are really good because they challenge us to go way beyond where we would have gone simply to run a better business. And they cause us to be a better business, to be a better company, and in some ways, I think so many folks in the company feel better about what they do every day because it's more than just running a business. It's making a difference. But we're just started, and I just couldn't be more proud of what we've accomplished and where we're going. I am really excited. You know, the best thing, Doug, is that this sustainability, environmental focus has become a part of the fabric of the company. It's a part of, I mean, when these buyers talk to a vendor about sustainability, you know, they're pretty much going to listen. And in the past, 10 years ago and more, that wasn't a subject. So it's wonderful. And finally, I'd say that the support we've gotten from scientists, academics, the NGO community, but especially from our vendors, from our suppliers, has been remarkable and essential to achieving anything that we have.
Yeah. This point that you make about how it makes you feel to work at Walmart is really important, and I don't know that I certainly understood it when we started this, but I can tell you certainly that people have joined Walmart and stayed at Walmart because they now see even more so that you can make a difference by working here, a difference in the world.
Oh yeah, no, it's really, really wonderful to see.
So as you look forward, what is it that you hope for Walmart, and what is it that you hope that we would think about and do?
Well, I hope that we continue the commitment, which I believe is going to happen. I hope that we will continue to have these very challenging goals and challenge folks across the organization. I'm really happy to see Laura in this new responsibility. I think that's a real...
No pressure.
commitment of one of our excellent resources. And of course, you know, she is working with all of you to get us where we need to go. So yeah. I am excited.
Me too. One of the things that's on my mind as we sit here today, Laura, and this is probably the way to kick off your goal setting for next year, is that when this whole thing started, and Jib and others that were here will know the feeling behind what I'm about to say. You will too. When this whole thing started, there was a level of excitement and passion, energy, and as I mentioned earlier, a window of time where great innovation occurred, where we were leading with our spirits and our hearts and driving change. And as we operationalized and put things in place to make things happen, we got great benefits from doing that. You could hear a lot of them today. But my challenge for you would be to reignite the flame. And I can't totally transfer that responsibility to you because I play a role in that process too. And there's so many things going on in our company that you can talk yourself into. This isn't core, I don't have time for this. It seems like it's a side project, and it's none of that. This is all integrated in the business. And Rob, when this thing really started to gain traction, it's when we figured out, oh, I can think differently about the planet and save the company a ton of money. And one of the aha moments, a really kind of duh moment, I was at Sam's Club, and we had these corrugate pallets where we were paying people to come take away the leftover boxes from the items we had sold in the club. And somebody said, you know, you can sell those. So instead of paying somebody to take them away, we suddenly started getting income, and we made a $50 million swing at Sam's in 1 year selling the cardboard we were paying people to take away. Those people that were taking it away didn't bother to tell us it was a value. These things go together, they're integrated, it's not separate. We need to drive innovation in the company. Greg's leading an effort, Steve and others, around private brands. What could private brands be at Walmart if we reinvented it in the right way and sustainability was really woven into it?
You know, the private brands are a huge opportunity across the company. We lag a lot of our best competitors in the penetration of private brands. We have the opportunity to give, to control the quality and give a top quality and control the pricing. So it's a huge opportunity for us.
So the challenge, Dan, you, Kathleen, Laura, and I, how do we create the energy and passion around this as we start into next year and have it fit into the overall framework of the company? You know, bring everybody's best self to work, authentic, why are you here, do you want to make a difference, and turn that into energy at store level and at club level and online so that our customers can see it. Rob, anything else you want to share with the group before we wrap up?
Oh, it's just great to be here. It's great to be here, and I can't wait to come back for the 15th.
Counting on that. You guys want to wrap this thing up with a Walmart cheer? Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
Give me a W.
Give me an A.
Hey, give me an L.
L. Give me a squiggly.
Squiggly. Give me an M.
Give me an A.
R.
T.
What's that spell?
Whose Walmart is it?
My Walmart. Who's number one? Oh,